Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. My name is Cal, and today I'm joined by Callum Brennan. Brannan, sorry, is that Brannan?
Brannan, yeah.
Callum Brennan. So, yeah, we're going to be going over the circus that is Everton at the minute. It just seems to be a situation that's getting stranger by the day. You know, we made a point a couple of days ago saying it was a situation that was really dragging its heels. And yeah, there's been some interesting developments over that 24 hours, to say the least. So, first of all, Callum, thanks for coming on the stream with us. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, pal.
Good, very good. So, of course, let's just jump straight into it. Let's jump to the obvious one. And by the way, we are live on YouTube as well, so be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we're going to get stuck into the comments as often as we can. We want to hear everyone's thoughts on what has been going on, because it has been nothing short of controversial. So, yeah, let's get straight into it. Last night, Jim White sent out a tweet, and the tweet says that Rafa Benitez is on the brink of becoming the new Everton manager, which I think is fair to say sent the fan base into something of a bit of a meltdown, with good reason. So, yeah, I'm just going to put it straight to you, Callum. What are your thoughts? Rafa Benitez is the potential ex-Liverpool manager, Rafa Benitez as the potential next manager of the club. What are your thoughts?
At first, I think it was just the idea of, any sort of manager would do, because at first, we started off with it looked like it could be Eddie Howe, then Nuno, and then there was slight inklings it could be Conte, Galtier. It's been a roller coaster. So at first I was like, maybe Rafa wouldn't be that bad. But, then when you go back into the history, calling us a small club, the China stuff, he's had his paycheck, he's on the final carousel of managers. I don't think that's what the club should be looking for. I think we can afford to look for better. Even I've even said, even someone like Eddie Howe, in my opinion, would be better than Rafa Benitez, because we've all just had to watch 18 months of awful football under Ancelotti, and it did get some results, but in the end it wasn't enjoyable to watch. And then you have got managers available now that will play that attacking football, or doesn't even have to be attacking, just somewhat positive football that we can sit and go, you know what, I actually enjoy watching this, instead of just being forced to watch it as Everton fans. I feel like Benitez is a big step backwards, even over someone like Nuno is a big step backwards, because at least with Nuno, we can bring the players in, we could bring your Pedro Netos in, he could get the best out of Nunes who's coming in, but then at the same time, what's Rafa going to do? We're going to sit with a five at the back, sit and defend against these lower teams, which is the reason we were losing to them last season, because we wouldn't go at them. So I'm not a big fan of the Rafa appointment anymore, especially with some of the other names that we've been linked to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on, mate. I mean, it's not the most, for more reasons than one, there's been a lot of a negativity towards the potential name. And I think, just on the appointment, if we take the whole Liverpool stuff out of it, because we will get into all that, do you feel like maybe Everton's thinking, other than anything else, is more that he's sort of similar as they can maybe get to Ancelotti? If you forget about Conte, maybe he's, Rafa, you're going to get results out of him. He has won Champions League, he has had success. And, if maybe 10 years ago he was a big name, and do you think that's maybe a bit of their thinking? But of course, a lot of the problem is this is 10 years ago. He's not really pulled up any trees in the last 10 years, really, in management, has he?
Yeah, well, I think the problem is we're looking at it. Rafa Benitez would have been a good appointment after Moyes left. Moyes left, wow, how long ago now? 8 years ago?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like there's so many much more progressive managers nowadays. Even Conte, I understand we're not the biggest club. I understand that there are probably clubs Conte would rather join than us. But at the same time, at least if we're going to go for these big names, go for the ones that are actually going to progress us forwards, except for Rafa Benitez, who might steady us, get us an 8th place finish. See you later, Rafa. Let's bring in someone else who can build the ship. I'd even take Dunk over Rafa, and that's saying something, because I love Dunk. Don't get me wrong, we all love Dunk, but he's completely unproven besides 2 games for us. But at the same time, I don't want the club to be looking at 2012 and thinking that's our manager. We need to be looking at 2021 and possibly even 2025, 2024 when we move into Bramley Dock and say that's our manager.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point there about how, the Rafa, I think you alluded to the fact that it might be like a short-term thing, because even if we do bring him in and he does steady the ship a little bit, and we do, as you say, maybe in and around the European places, 8th sort of place, maybe a few cup runs, that's sort of there's an argument there that's maybe where we sort of were under Ancelotti. And by the time we do get 18 months down the line, or certainly edging close to get to the new stadium, you'd like to think that we were more established and we were regularly competing in Europe. And, we just made a lot more progress than we recently have. So I think that's an important point you put up there, because a lot of people, everyone's sick of this whole merry-go-round of managers, aren't they, for however long it's been. You know, we've not really had any real stability since Moyes, have we really? I mean, you look at Roberto Martinez, we got 3 seasons out of him, 2 of which were completely dire. You know, Ronald Koeman, he had an okay first season, but then the second one was a disaster. Allardyce came in, no one's happy with that, and then Silva, Ancelotti, and obviously Ancelotti left. He didn't get sacked, but you know there could have been an argument there if his name wasn't Carlo Ancelotti, given some performances. But so do you feel that if we did go to Rafa, that we could be in the same situation 18 months down the line? You know, no real progress being made, or at least no massive strides in terms of footballing wise. And, you know, would you rather we had a manager who's there for the long term and, you know, who can take us into Bramley-Moore rather than steady the ship in the short term?
Yeah, I don't even feel like it has to be someone who's going to be here for 10 years or something like Moyes was. It's just got to be someone who's willing to take the club forward. Like, I've got the Sky Bet odds here. Fonseca's just failed with the Spurs stuff. Favre, Galtier, Conte, Eddie Howe. Even if I keep scrolling down, there's better names. You know, it's this idea that Everton think that Rafa Benitez is still the big name he was when he was Liverpool manager. Like, don't get me wrong, he was okay at Newcastle. He worked well with what he had. I don't like the idea of people saying he failed at Newcastle. Bruce has done better. It's dumb. Or how they count the relegation as Rafa's fault. And let's face it, they were already relegated. But at the same time, he's just come off China, where I'm pretty sure he had something ridiculous, like a 30% win rate. Like, you can't come to a club that, let's face it, what I read was that we were going to offer Rafa a war chest. He's not the sort of guy you want to be offering a war chest to. At least give it to Santo because of the link to Jorge Mendes. Fonseca, you know, bit of a hipster choice of a manager, but he knows what he's doing. He's going to play fun football. Favre has proven that he can play the football at Dortmund and other places like that. Even Roberto Martinez would just do a better job. And that, because at least people, you know, we look at those last 2 seasons, but that first season is the best season I've seen Everton play football-wise in my lifetime. In my lifetime, easily. And don't get me wrong, it dropped off after that. But it's not like exactly we had the defence to keep it up. You know, our defenders were poor. We had Jagielka, who was ageing. You know, I think John Stones was a part of that defence, but even then, John Stones was still really young. And he wasn't all like what he is now. Now we've got, you know, Godfrey, who looks like he could potentially in the future be a world-class centre-back. Keane's really good at sweeping and getting rid of the ball. Mina, when he's fit, can be one of the better centre-backs. You know, not better centre-backs in the league, but he's definitely high enough quality to be playing for a team that could qualify for the Europa League. But then with Benitez, it's like, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get 7th, 8th. I don't expect 5th, 6th, 4th with him. And the thing is, even if we brought in Fonseca and finished 10th, at least if we're making a forward step with the football, I can accept one season where it is transitional and then it kicks off. With Rafa, we don't have time for a transitional season because we're running on fumes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And of course, we are live on YouTube, guys, so be sure to drop us a like, and we are going to get stuck in some comments now. James Ditchfield says, why would Bill or Farhad want him after all he called us a small club? Of course, yeah, and we'll get into the Liverpool connections in a short while. Erwin Koeman, Rafa would be a disaster. Yeah, many people have the same opinion. James Ditchfield says, I think we need a manager who can take us into the new ground. I don't think Rafa's the man to take us to the new ground. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Lewis Clinton says, agree with that Rafa isn't a Hollywood name anymore. In my opinion, he never was. And I think that's a fair point. Like you said, he's not really done anything of great significance or note in the last 10 years or so, really, in the Europa League with Chelsea. But yeah, let's get into the whole Liverpool side of this now, because this is a big controversial point. I'm gonna put the question to you straight up now. Is another comment there? Rafa is too defensive, makes Allardyce teams look like Barca. Well, that's definitely not what we want. So for you personally, Callum, obviously Rafa's had. He is seen. Let's make no bones about it. He's quite a successful manager with Liverpool. You know, he won them an FA Cup, a Champions League, and he narrowly missed out the title in 2009. So how much of a bearing? Let's say that, you know, it looks like it's going to be Rafa. How much of a bearing does Liverpool connections have on this appointment, in your opinion? Is this a massive issue, or can you see past that and concern more lies within his managerial style?
I think I could see past it if it was just he was the Liverpool manager, but he was also the Liverpool manager that called a team with 9 league titles a small club. You know, you can't hire a manager who calls your club small. It's a smack in the face. It's like everyone laughed at Spurs when they hired Mourinho after a while because they were like, oh, look at everything he said about Spurs in the past. And in the end, we don't want to be a joke club anymore. We've been a joke club for years. And last year we made some steps, beating Liverpool, finally getting that off of our backs, almost making Europe, finishing with 59 points we had. It's not a bad points tally at all. It would have got us 7th. It would have got us Europe any other year, probably. But in the end, now that Carlos somehow still thinks he's Real Madrid quality, we need to move forward and we need to show that it isn't Carlo that brought us 60 points in the league. It's the players we have. And Rafa's not the guy to get it out of those players, Calvert-Lewin's not Solomon Rondon, and saw something like that, Rafa's been, I'd say, past it for a few years now. Maybe, I don't know if you can say past it at Newcastle, but past it to bring a team into Europe, definitely, since Chelsea. Chelsea crushed his confidence for things like that, and now he just can't do it anymore. And I'm not saying, we have to be this club that's in the top 6 every year, but we definitely need to be starting to sniff around that area within the next 2 years, moving into this big, fancy, modern stadium. And under Rafa, let's face facts, we all know that's not going to be how it works. 30% win rate in China. I'm not trying to take the piss here, but I could probably do better in China. He did awful with all those wages you've got to spend. And I'm pretty sure he had a few decent players as well.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make for great reading, does it? His statistics that in China, we looked there. Dalian Professional, he was in charge for 38 games. He only won 12 of them and lost 18, which gave him a win percentage of 31%, which doesn't make for great reading at all. Just sticking with Rafa and the whole Liverpool thing, and I can see a few comments in the comment section about this now, about the small club comment that he made. And for a lot of people, this is really stuck, and for a lot of people, this is just the reason alone to not bring him in. I've got an article in the Echo with me here, and it goes on about how when Benitez joined Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football back in 2019, and he basically retracted those comments, so to speak, and it was something that stuck with Evertonians. And he said, I made a mistake when I said Everton were a small club. What I wanted to say was they are a small team because in this game, I remember they had one chance. Liverpool fans, they were happy and the Evertonians were upset. But I didn't want to say they were a small club. I only wanted to say they were a small team. Bearing in mind, these were comments when our managerial situation between Silver and Ancelotti wasn't very clear. Do you feel like Rafa would really want this job? And we all know he's local to the area. He has good connections to the city, So do you feel like Rafa would be rubbing his hands if he got this job? This would be, let's not kid ourselves, this would be massive for Rafa. He could make a comeback to the Premier League like this, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, if I can put it easier, this is bigger for Rafa than it is for Everton and the fans.
Yeah, fair comment.
To be completely honest, I couldn't care less what Rafa does next. I don't want him here. And mainly that is because of the football. I'm not a fan of the small club comment, but at the same time, when did he make this comment? It was like 14 years.
It was after the derby in 2007 or something stupid like that.
Yeah. I'm not trying to make myself sound young, but I wasn't even properly watching Everton in 2007. I was 6. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really bother me, but it's the idea of, you're going to hire the manager that called you a small club. I don't care what he said on Monday Night Football, because of course he's going to say that if Everton are about to offer him $100,000 a week to manage us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's the idea of, and it is kind of like the idea of when we put here, we'd still be crying 14 years later. It does make us look like a small club. But I don't think it's crying. I think it's the idea of, does Rafa really respect the club if he's made these comments in the past, or has he come in looking to be close to where he likes to live, and because he'll have a massive paycheck and loads of money to spend? Well, let's face facts. We haven't spent our money well ever since we've had it. There's been a few good ones, Godfrey, James, everything from this summer has been a really good signing, and that's not the point. But even before then, Sigurdsson for 50 million, Davy Klaassen for 25, 30 million. Yeah. We're so used to wasting money that if you look at Rafa Benitez's track history, he's not the best when it comes to transfers. He was the one who signed Christian Atsu, I think, Jacob Murphy and stuff like that. He's not really the best in the transfer market, and maybe that is what Brands is for and why Brands is here. But in the end, speaking of Brands, why is he not the one making the decision for the manager when his job is to direct the football?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like you mentioned there, just going back to the small club comment, how much of this comes down to, the board, and, this is a bit of a sticking point in recent weeks as well. Who is making these decisions? Who is the one upstairs at the club who seem to think, Rafa Benitez would be a good idea? That's what I'm interested. Is it Ken Wright? Is it Mashiri? Yeah, that's what it sounded like, mate, isn't it? Mashiri. And this is, and what I have noticed in the last couple of weeks, and I want to get people's thoughts on this in the comments as well. Mashiri, I've noticed that a lot of people are starting to get a bit frustrated with Mashiri in a way. I think a lot of people for quite a long time, they've given him the benefit of the doubt in a way, because everything when he came in, he cleared the debts. Obviously, you can never take away from him what he's done for the stadium, but for a lot of people, he seems to just be sticking his oar in terms of like managerial recruitment, and that surely should be Marcel Brands' job. So, where do you stand on this? Like, Moshiri, this is not he's a money man. He's not really a football man, is he? So why is Moshiri making these calls if what's being reported is to be believed?
The thing is, everyone's kind of slagging Moshiri off for it, but I kind of like it because, if he didn't care, he'd just let Brands do whatever he wants. At least it kind of shows to us that Moshiri cares. It's like, Wormy's just put here as well. He's got the best CV, technically. So Moshiri's just looking at what he's won and gone, that's the guy. He might have watched Liverpool come back to beat AC Milan. That's the guy. Watch them win an FA Cup. That's the guy. He's won trophies, and in the end, I can see why Moshiri looks at him like that, and why he doesn't look at someone like, for example, Gaultier, who I believe was one Brands wanted, but in the end, he looks at him and goes, "What's he won? He's just won a league title with Lille. Congrats." That's it. That's all he's won. Or maybe like why he won't look at someone like, let's have a look. Why he won't look at Duncan Ferguson as a serious option? Because what's Duncan Ferguson ever won? He's just a cult hero legend of the club. It's kind of like maybe he doesn't want us to fall into the same trap as someone like a Chelsea with Frank Lampard. But I guess when it comes to it, I've got a weird theory, and I don't know if this is just me who has this about Moshiri and Moshiri's little link to Jim White. Part of me thinks he wanted to hire Rafa, so he went to Jim White and said, "Listen, Jim, post this tweet saying that we're going to hire Rafa Benitez. Give me a fan reaction that I can gauge, and then see how the fans react." Because in the end, I don't think Moshiri's an idiot. I think we all know Moshiri's not an idiot. So if Moshiri's gone to him and said, "Here, tell the fans we're going to hire Rafa," and gauge a fan reaction, and maybe that's what he's using to hire the manager. Because in the end, what's happened over the few days is Nuno was apparently, oh, there we go, we've got Nuno, now we've got Rafa. Tomorrow we're probably hiring Fonseca. The day after, Bobby Martinez is coming back. Day after that, oh no, Frank Lampard's going to become the Everton manager. It's good. I feel like it's just going to be this carousel over and over where it's a new guy every day until eventually I feel like Brands is going to get the final decision. But I do think Moshiri does actually care about the club. There's a reason he's cleared debts, built a stadium, give us so much money. I feel like he wants to help the best he can, but he just doesn't have the best football mind to help, which is why the best way he can help us is to let Brands choose the man to take the club into the future.
Yeah, and obviously what you just said there, you feel like Moshiri, he's sort of like tapping up Jim White just to gauge a bit of fan reaction of like what sort of direction the club should take. But does that, I don't know if this is just me, but that concerns me in a way because, I want to know that we have a bit of direction, we have a plan, and like I don't want the strategy for our club to be employing a manager to be getting broadcasters to send out tweets and judging fan reactions. For me, that just tells me that the whole recruitment side, the board up top, is just really poor at the minute. Like for me, that's not how we should. Everton Football Club should be going after managers. I feel like we need to have a set plan in place, and because there's been no communication, it's been completely quiet from the club ever since Ancelotti left. This is what's concerning me, and I just feel like it's one of them where we want to have some kind of direction because we're looking at all these different managers that are being named, and there doesn't seem to be any pattern of the type of managers. I read something the other day, and it said something like the Everton managerial choice will come down between Rafa Benitez and Roberto Martinez. Now, these are two completely different managers. Like, they're not even remotely close to the style of management, the style of play. Like, to me, it's just implying that there's no plan, there's no real strategy to any of this, and it's just so messy, and I just don't know if that's going to come back to bite us. I really don't. I'm going to just get into a couple of comments here now as well. Lewis Cannon says, I think Martinez in. Yeah, I think so many people are just so scarred from the final two seasons and just how bad it was, towards the end when it got to the whole sit-down protest at Goodison, and the man just seemed delusional in his press conferences, like before and after games. I think just a lot of fans had enough towards the end. Martinez, I think maybe people want to give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit because, he's had some time in Belgium, but can you compare that to club management? He's not really had a club job since Everton. Wormy Spoon says, I don't get the football thing when he was at Liverpool with Torres rampaging around. They were super attacking. I think Rafa knows how to get the best out of what he has. On paper, he has the best CV. I'm not saying get Rafa, but I don't understand people saying he's bad because outside the red shirt, he's a good manager. Fair point. Lewis Crinson says, what Mashiri has done for us financially, we can't thank him enough. But it reminds me of Man U and Ed Woodward. A businessman is running the show and doesn't have much of a footballing brain. Personally, I agree with that, and I do agree with that. And I feel like if we have this director of football model, then surely, especially with a new contract, he should be making these kind of decisions. Willie Spoons, if the plan is for Rafa to come in, so Duncan can stay as number 2, and in a couple of years they transition Duncan into manager position, would that not be more acceptable to fans? That's an interesting point. What are your thoughts on that one, Callum?
Well, if that's the plan, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go, here you go, look, Dunk's learned under Ancelotti, Rafa, or Shite. We've just been relegated to the Championship. You know, just let's look at Mikel Arteta. Just sitting under good managers doesn't make you a good manager. I love Arteta for his time at Everton, and it was what got me into really following Liverpool was Arteta, was Tim Cahill, was that team. But at the same time, just who you sit under and who you pass the corns around to doesn't make you a good manager and never will make you a good manager. That's just not how it works. In the end, we need to look at a manager who's got enough experience to guide us around where we need to be, or in a more positive outlook, guide us into the future. For example, Eddie Howe, he's not a brilliant one. Everton fan, probably the most passionate man we're going to get for the job. Or Galtier, look at that Lille team when he joined. It's just won a title. I'm not saying we'll win a title, but clearly he knows how to build a project. Favre was able, I don't know, he was the one who took after Tuchel, I think. And, they had a bit of a clangor when he got sacked. But even before that, he was good. He was building a team. Fonseca, with Roma, he knows what he's doing. Santo, even with Wolves. Don't get me wrong, Santo's the one I'm always going to be iffy about because of how much money he had to spend. But in the end, there's just something about Antonio Conte that I really want, but I just know it won't happen. Unless Everton have somehow managed to pull off a miracle and they're just tricking us this entire time and they've got Conte ready. But in the end, what I think it is it's just I don't like the idea that they're throwing managers to the press, which is what I think they're doing. It's why I mentioned
exactly. Yeah, there's no direction.
Throwing managers to the press to see how we react. They threw Galtier and they like him. Okay, let's see Rafa. Oh, they don't like him. Let's not do Rafa. Oh, Santo, they're a bit iffy. Let's see who else we can do. In the end, what we need is a manager who's not going to leave, which is why I think a lot of people don't trust Conte because of what's just happened with Rafa. And if Conte doesn't get his own way, Conte will storm out. Mm-hmm. But I think Rafa, let's face facts, Rafa gets sacked after a maximum of 2 years. He gets sacked because he was a red at one point, it instantly makes it 10. He goes on a 3-game losing streak. Gone. That's it. It doesn't matter.
He's got a rod for his own back as soon as he walks into the club, and we just know
exactly.
We can just see how it would go. A few losses. He's a cop-out. He's this. He's that. The agent Rafa Schultz are going to come out, and we can just see how that's going. And for me, that's enough to just turn me stomach to the appointment. It really is.
Exactly. I think Martinez has got a lot better. I think a lot of people say international football is different, but at the same time, I had jinxing this because I'm pretty sure Belgium might still be losing to Denmark. At the same time, he's managed to get a lot out of this team, and even though right now he might be getting battered around by a Danish team who don't have the best creator, but at the same time, he's improved clearly. He hasn't got the best out of this Belgian team, but you can't blame him for that. The players have got to take part in it as well. But it's just this idea of, is Rafa the man to take us forward? And we're going to repeat this over and over and over again. But Rafa's not the guy to take us forward.
No.
He's the guy to take us sideways. And we don't want to go sideways anymore. Yeah. Let's face it, it's been sideways, backwards, sideways, backwards, sideways, backwards. Ever since Moyes left, we'd have sideways, up, backwards again. And it's just, we want someone who, even if it's just steady progression is better, going from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 is better than 10, 4, 14. I don't want to be that. I want to be a club where we can at least enjoy watching. Look at Southampton. Southampton have finished 15th and got battered 9-0 twice in the past 2 years. Their fans love the football Hasenhüttl plays. Brighton fans will sit there. I mean, obviously we're much bigger than these clubs, but at the same time, Brighton have sat there, almost got relegated and gone, yeah, we're playing good football. We've got big wins, came back from 2-0 to beat Man City. It was why I was so high on Graham Potter, and it's part of me wasn't as high on him because Graham Potter is a proper football hipster manager who gets massively overhyped. But at the same time, he's got a philosophy, and in the end, I don't think Rafa does. Rafa's not the same man as he was at Liverpool because some Wormy, I think you said, mentioned Fernando Torres. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's not Fernando Torres. No one in our squad is even close to Fernando Torres in the late 2000s. Not close at all.
No.
So it's this idea of, we want to progress, not walk sideways. And, people here are mentioning, Galtier's never been out of France. How do you know he will be good? Let's try to think of someone. Antonio Conte at Chelsea, I don't think had ever been out of Italy. Besides, he did the national team and the Italian clubs and then won the league. Jose Mourinho had been in Portugal before Chelsea hired him. Alex Ferguson was in Scotland. You can't say how do you know he'll be good if you don't take the chance on these managers. And in the end, Galtier has at least gone around and built clubs up. If he fails, that's our bad. We've made a mistake. But at least we were progressive in trying instead of just going, well, at least Rafa will get us a guaranteed eighth place finish instead of someone who could possibly make us league winners in the future. Because let's face it, we will have the funding, we will have the stadium, and hopefully in a few years' time when more players have developed, we will have the squad to challenge for a title if the right man is at the helm for the job.
Yeah, and you mentioned Galtier there. There's a load of shouts from in the comments. Joshua Morrison has a good point. He says Galtier is absolutely stellar choice. Built a lower tier club into winners and developed players. Top flight manager. Yeah, he was my choice. He was certainly my choice when the Galtier talk came out. It's all gone a bit quiet, and to be honest, I think it's going to be quite unlikely at this stage now. But Galtier would be my choice certainly. Peter Collins says, what we have here, guys, is a fractured board that's in disarray, all pulling in different directions and no common goal. Peter, you've hit the nail on the head there, mate. That's exactly the problem, yeah. There's only one person, Christophe Galtier. Yeah, would you take Rafa and an FA Cup win? I think a lot of people do a lot of things for an FA Cup win at the minute, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Rafa, I don't doubt that maybe he could win a cup for us if he was stayed, but this is even if we get that amount of time out of him, like Callum said. So yeah, Lewis Quinton again says, if Goodison is toxic towards Rafa, it'll rub off onto the players, and we know how our players are when their heads drop. Then the football is bad and he's sacked and we're back to square one. Yep, absolutely. Wormy Spoons, Galtier would be my first choice, but apparently he's going back to Nice to be close to his family. Yeah, it's also, I mean, let's not forget as well, the whole Rafa talk. It was only last week that the sort of language that's being used around Rafa's potential appointment was the exact same language that was getting used about Espirito Santo, and that was quite quickly blown out the water. But of course, I think this is a point Callum made quite early on in the stream, is that let's not forget that Fonseca's out of the Tottenham running so far. So do you think that could possibly gain a bit of momentum over the next few days? Paulo Fonseca, what do you think about that one? He's been linked with the job a few times in the past.
Yeah, I don't know. What was it? Something to do with taxes, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a disagreement financially or something along them lines. Yeah, so he's been linked a few times down the years, hasn't he? That's a name that hasn't really gone away. And obviously he's sacked from Roma. He was at Shakhtar Donetsk before that. It was quite successful there actually. Would be interesting? Yeah.
Was he not the one at Shakhtar Donetsk who built the sort of squad with like Willian and Fernandinho and stuff like that? Yeah. Was that not him?
Yeah, I think With was it Costa? Yeah,
Yeah. Didn't he get a Europa League final with bloody Shakhtar Donetsk?
Yeah, so I mean, like he was very, very good manager of Shakhtar Donetsk, and he went to Roma, didn't quite work out in the end. But do you think he could do a job at Goodison? Would you think about him over Rafa?
Yeah, 100%. You know what? The more I look at it, if I Google, I'm making sure I've got my years right. That's all. Was he not the guy who managed Roma when they beat like Barcelona and came back to win and stuff like that?
Could have been.
Like before, let me have a look. Roma. Yeah, he was. Oh no, he wasn't. No, he was the Shakhtar Donetsk one. Yeah, Braga. I'm pretty sure he did big things with. Roma. Don't get it. Roma. That club is the us of Serie A. It's just constantly ever since Totti and De Rossi retired, down. It's sort of like it's hard to really say, oh, well, he won't do well because he didn't do well with Roma in the last season. Because in the end, at least it's something exciting. And in the end, I think that's what we want. I don't want it to be like Carlo Ancelotti, where we all got hyped and then he left and he was like, oh, well, that won't worth it. Because as long as the football's good, in the end, that's all I care about. As long as we don't get relegated and the football's good, I'm happy with a transitional season. I don't mind if next season we finish 14th, if there's some progression. I don't mind if we finish a point off relegation, as long as it looks like there is some progression going forward. It's all we need. In the end, I'm happy because I was saying this on another YouTube channel I do this with, that this season was a transitional season and that Ancelotti would take us further next season. Ancelotti did in the end leave, but there is now pieces there for another manager to pick up and make into a really solid squad. Nunes, I think that's basically a guarantee now, isn't it? He just needs to fly to Liverpool.
It looks like, from what's been reported this morning, yeah.
There's the third midfielder we need to progress the ball forward down the field, which allows Alan and Decore to sit and play their roles better. We need a right back and probably one or two pacey wingers. And I really feel like we're there for Europe. We've got the centre back of the future in Godfrey. We've got forwards of the future in Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. We've got Pickford in goal, who I don't care what anyone says. I think Pickford is one of the better goalkeepers in the Premier League, and I think he proved it this season. I'm going to say this every time I get to make this point, is it just needs to be the right man to take the job. And Rafa, Nuno, I just don't feel like are the right names. I like Nuno. I do. I think he did great stuff with Wolves. But in the end, we want someone who looks at Everton as an exciting project. I think Fonseca will look at us and go, I'll have enough money. I've got some exciting young players. I can work with a director of football who's good at his job. Yeah, this looks brilliant for the future. Let's go.
Yeah, you go on about players there, and you're right. There are some prospects in that side, definitely. But I think a lot of the issues were that maybe that was the issue in itself. It was a team of individuals at times last season. But Wayne Spoons has just put a comment, and this is an interesting one that I want to hear your thoughts on. What do you make of the James back to Real talk? Because there's been some reports today that potentially there was a bit of a clause in Rodriguez's contract which enabled him to go back to Real Madrid for free. I doubt this very much, given how quick they were to get rid of him, his injury record. I think this is just a bit of lazy journalism, given Ancelotti's gone to Madrid. What do you think?
Yeah, it's absolute crap. It's waffle.
Yeah.
Why would you go back? Let's face it. He comes here and he's the star of the team, no matter who we sign. He's the star of the team. He's proven when fit that he's still a sensational attacking midfielder, still one of the best in the Premier League when he's fit. Why would he do that to go sit on Madrid's bench? Like, he's not going to start.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me at all. He was like in for one game, out for about 6 games, one year. I can't see that going well with Madrid.
No, exactly. It's crap. It's absolute waffle. And if you just go back for free, you know what? To be brutally honest, I don't care. It's I wish I could act like I was, oh no, James is gone, or whatever am I going to do? Oh no, I'll have to throw my Everton shirt with his name on the back that I got from 20 quid for some dodgy geezer on it. It doesn't bother me. It's like he joined for a free. He'll leave on a free. There's his wage. I mean, he doesn't even get paid that much, but his wages are out. You know what? In the end, it's not a massive step backwards because, for example, Rafa comes in, James says, see you later. We bring an Alan St. Maxim in. Yeah, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. I don't think he leaves unless Real Madrid pay us. And if Real Madrid want to give us 25 to 30 million for James Rodriguez, bye. I'll take that. He's injury prone.
I think we'd be lucky to get that for him, yeah.
Well, no, but if Ancelotti wants him back, then that's what Ancelotti pays. We don't work, especially after what he's done to us. I think one problem with Everton is, I know this doesn't link with the managers, but sometimes that can be a bit of a pushover. With Lukaku and Stones, we did great business. But then sometimes we can just get pushed over by bigger clubs. And I feel like that's one thing we need to get back to the olden days of Everton of saying, if you want our best players, you pay big money or else you don't get them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how much of this, obviously just going back to the managerial situation, how much of an onus do you think this is going to have on the transfer strategy? Because one thing that I've certainly been vocal about in recent days, I feel like all this manager talk is very much, it's sort of distracting a lot of people from just how poorly that side performed last season. And let's not forget some of the woeful performances we were forced to watch. And really, if Ancelotti was still here, then the issue at hand would have been seriously getting in some better quality into that side. So how much of it do you think this will change much of the transfer strategy, or do you think that's very much in Brands' hands still? Or is it? Because we don't know. We don't know who's making the calls at the club, and that's half the problem, isn't it? So what are your thoughts on the transfer policies?
I think Brands is in complete control of the transfers. Nunes seems like a very Brands transfer now. Quite cheap. He's looked into a league. He's looked into a sporting team where they went unbeaten. It's clearly he's a good player. I don't know if he was a consistent starter because there was Goncalves. There was a few players that kind of play that role of carrying and progressing the ball. But from what I've seen, which is highlights, so I'm not falling into highlights. Highlights can make Alex Iwobi look good. But, it's this idea of, you know what, for 18 million euros, that's nothing nowadays in football. In the end, even if he's not that good right now, he's going to develop. And, you know, Wormy here mentions Dumfries and Nunes are a good start.
Yeah.
With Dumfries, I don't know, because I feel like now that after that first game for Netherlands, don't get me wrong, he missed 2 stinkers. But I feel like he's a good player, and I feel like the Euros are going to boost his price.
He impressed me in that game. He really did. I thought he was
he might have
exactly
missed
what we
2
needed.
chances,
Yeah.
but in the end, at least he was creating the chances. At least I don't think that's a one-off. If he can create 1 to 2 good chances again for Everton, perfect. But I feel like it's all about letting Brands do what he wants. And in the end, Brands is why I feel like Dumfries could happen. The link with PSV, the Dutch link. I feel like that's something Brands needs to take a big look at, is his links with PSV. You know, they've got that Noni Madueke, the English one who played for Spurs. It cost 40 to 50 million. But a 19-year-old English player who can absolutely tear defenses to shreds is not a bad start. You know, PSV and a lot of Dutch teams have a lot of good talent that we could take for cheap. And it's something that I definitely think he needs to look at. I just think it's all about being careful now with the money.
Oh, yeah.
I get we've got a lot of money, but only spend that lot of money on a proven player who... So, for example, if someone says you're going to pay 50 million for Pedro Neto, fine. That is completely fine. He's proven in the Premier League. I know it's only been 1 season, but in the end, the way he dragged that Wolves team and even the way he played for Portugal when he did play, it's obvious he's good enough to cost that money. Ruben Neves, you know, we won't sign him now. Nunes, 40 million proven, take it. I don't want us going and spending 50 million on another Sigurdsson, for example, someone who's just got relegated from the Premier League and isn't, you know, he can, like, for example, Sigurdsson was what? He created a few chances and had a nice bit of a set piece on him, you know. The only thing that makes Sigurdsson look good nowadays is, don't get me wrong, his season statistics look good. But in the end, when he played, he didn't play too well. He's that Sato guy on...
Yeah, quite... yeah, he's quite ineffective in games. And, you know, if you are watching, of course, please be sure to smash the like button. It only takes a second. So, yeah, we talk about players. Dumfries is a popular one, and I'm very much on that train because I thought he was pacey, and we need so much pace in that side. Can't stress that enough. He created opportunities. He was up and down. He reminded me like Coleman 10 years ago. Like he's just seemed like what we sort of need, and that needs to correspond throughout the whole the pitch. You know, we can have like the left fullbacks, right fullbacks working in sync. Because I feel like we only see it in glimpses with Dean a little bit because he doesn't really have that much in front of him, which I think reinstates the need for wingers. So, let's say it is Rafa. If we're just going off what's being reported at the minute, which it seems like Rafa's the favourite, and if we're going off that, how do you think he will work well under the director of football model with Brands? Or do you feel like he would want to very much put his own stamp on things and bring in some John Joe Shelby-esque players or some Christian Atsu-esque players you mentioned before, which would be an absolute disaster, as I'm sure many would agree?
I think with Rafa, let's face facts. If he has to join, that may be why he's not going to join. He has to work with Brands because in the end, no one in who we could hire, unless his name is Antonio Conte or he's one of the biggest managers in the world, can take priority over Marcel Brands, who is fantastic at his job. I don't care what anyone says. This idea of Brands isn't good because Brands brought in these players. Because let's face facts, if Brands wasn't in, we probably don't get Ancelotti. We don't get Ben Godfrey, especially because I don't care what anyone says. Ben Godfrey was comfortably our best signing last season.
Oh, 100 times over.
Ben Godfrey up here and then Decore here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, mate. Yeah,
Ben Godfrey was one of the best centre-backs in the league last year. And if people want to get arsy about that is statistically proven. I will happily put it on Twitter later for you to prove it. But in the end, like I said, Brands is the one we want. Brands is the ever important to make sure that we keep going forward, even if we lose managers. But I feel like with Rafa, it could be good. You know, the football at Valencia was good, at Liverpool was good, it was good at Chelsea, it was pretty good at Napoli. I'm pretty sure when he was Napoli manager, that was when they had Edinson Cavani or Higuain. It was either the end of it, and I think it might have been the end of Edinson Cavani, the start of Higuain. But you look at his CV and, you know, He managed Chelsea, Inter Milan, Napoli, and Real Madrid. It's literally, they've looked at him and goes, his CV's like Ancelotti's, because it's just no one wants it. Let's face it. Someone's put here, Rafa will win us silverware. Cool. Rafa can win us the league. He could win us a league and FA Cup double, and that's not even the biggest achievement of his career. Anything he achieves at Everton, unless it is a Champions League, will always be overshadowed by that comeback against Milan in Istanbul. Yeah. Everything he does at this club. Imagine hiring a manager whose biggest achievement will always go to your biggest rivals in football, something they will always be able to lord over you. Listen, I understand that he might win us an FA Cup. We haven't won a trophy in 1995. I'd much rather win an FA Cup in 4 years' time and finish 4th than win an FA Cup and finish 15th this next season.
Yeah, I mean, Erwin Koeman says fans still won't take to him. And I agree. Like we said before, he's got a road for his own back straight away. And, can you imagine how toxic Goodison would be if we really have a poor start to the season or anything like that? And I just feel like it's just so... It could go wrong so very quickly, so very easily under Rafa. I just feel like it could seriously go very wrong very quickly. And before you know it, we're back again. One other name, which is being mentioned in the comments a few times, is I would sleep watching Everton playing park the bus football under Rafa Benitez. Yeah, just quickly before I go on to the next points, like the defensive football, you've said already in the stream that that's something you're not here for at all. You don't want that brand of football. You want attacking style of play, and is that something that you'd find under like a Martinez sort of manager? Maybe you'd sooner go down that route.
I don't even think it has to be attacking. I don't think that's the problem. It just has to be positive. A fluid counter-attacking system works. It's even if we have 30% possession, but when we get it on the counter, we are dangerous. It's nice football on the counter. In the end, I don't want to play how we did against, for example, under Ancelotti. We played against the Carab teams. We had 60% possession, did nothing with it. A few shots from outside the box, a few shots wide. We played better counter-attacking. That was the best football we played, was when we'd counter-attack. The second half against United. Let me try to think of some other games. The best football we played was at the start
Arsenal
of the
game
season.
When we battered them 3-0. That was incredible.
Yeah, the Arsenal game, Brighton, West Brom were two examples that we could do something with a bit of possession. Chelsea at home, the Leicester games, the Leeds game. We showed that we don't need the ball to play good football. And I don't want us to play Graham Potter, all-out attack all the time football. Oh, if we lose, at least it was fun. No, I want to win games and I want to finish high in the league. Of course I do. But in the end, I want it to be something where, for example, I come from university in Derby, I travel to Goodison Park and don't get put to sleep in my seat. I don't want that, because what is the point paying £20 a train ticket to come over to Liverpool to watch Goodison, to watch us beat Burnley 1-0, and I might as well bring a blanket because it's December and cold and I want to fall asleep.
So what are your thoughts on Potter then? Is that a no for you, Graham Potter? If you could maybe get a tune out of him in an attacking style, where's he on your list?
I think the compensation we might have to play Brighton is massive, but in the end, we've got the money to pay that. It depends. He hasn't really managed a club of this stature, but at the same time, he can build a project. He knows what he's doing in the transfer window. I think he'd be very happy. I think Brighton have a director of football, or they have a technical director, something like that. So he's clearly happy to work. He's clearly happy to work with someone. In the end, there's other options I'd prefer, but if we came out tomorrow and said Graham Potter, I'd be like, thank God, over a lot of the names that have been mentioned, that it's him.
Yeah, and I think you speak for a lot of fans when you say that as well. One thing about Graham Potter, one thing it sort of reminds me of is, do you remember when Swansea first got promoted to the Premier League? And that, I think, was the first season they were in the Premier League. They were lauded for the style of football they played. Everyone was really got behind them. Brendan Rodgers was the manager, and at the time, he wasn't a well-known. I think he'd managed Reading previous to Swansea, and he left Swansea. He got the Liverpool job, and before he got the Liverpool job, he was just known as a manager of a smaller club, Swansea at the time. Played good football. Liverpool snapped him up, and you know what? Okay, he fell short to the title in the end, but he he sort of made a name for himself at Liverpool. Then, of course, he went on to do great things for Celtic, and now he's doing great things at Leicester. Do you think he likes for some of these coaches who play good football at lower clubs? Sometimes they need that move to establish themselves, and do you feel like maybe that could be the case if Potter was the man? I can't really see it happening now, but do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, sorry, I hate sitting on stools, man. So yeah, I feel like in the end, if we get Potter and we snap up the next Brendan Rodgers, we've won. Look, we win.
Yeah.
Look at what Brendan Rodgers has done, and I sit there watching, and it kills me that Liverpool fans were like, "This isn't our guy." Look at what he's doing with Leicester. Let's face
manager,
that.
yeah.
Leicester, if Leicester win the league next year, it wouldn't shock me at all. Like, don't get me wrong, it'd be an upset, but I'd be like, you know what? It doesn't surprise me because let's face it, it's been building up to this. Leicester now are what we wanted to be when Mashiri took over.
Yeah.
Leicester were in a similar position to us, but did everything right. They won the league, had a bit of a drop off afterwards, said, "Oh, that guy everyone's calling, oh, he's only the Celtic manager. I could go and beat him for Celtic. Let's give him a chance." Bang. They are now, let's face it, they've now replaced Arsenal in that big six, in the top six.
Yeah.
Arsenal have been kicked out, made room for Leicester. Spurs have been kicked out, Leicester are there. It don't matter which one of those two North London clubs it is. Leicester have completely replaced them. And in the end, Graham Potter might be that guy for us. Because in the end, the one thing about Brendan Rodgers that is so good is his adaptability. He can change any situation for the positive for that club. And that is something we need. For example, someone's playing here, Leicester have a great project. We have a project in hand. We have so many good young players. We've got a fantastic academy. We've got money. We've got ambitions. We've got a big stadium.
Yeah.
We've arguably got a more appealing project than Leicester, even now, with all the players Leicester have. But it's like I've said, I think this will be like my 6th or 7th time saying it. We can't start the project without the right man in charge. Leicester found their man and are now able to just go up and up and up and up. Because let's face it, Brendan Rodgers can finish 13th for Leicester next year and he's not getting sacked because they know they can trust him. We need someone we can trust, even if we have to fall on Eddie Howe. If Eddie Howe proves us all wrong, which he definitely can, especially under a director of football, especially if he's not the man making the transfers, it's just this idea that we don't need big name managers. We don't. In the end, that's not how it works. We could probably end up snapping our chap. Look what we did with Moyes. He was the Preston manager.
Yeah. Good point.
Martinez was the Wigan manager. It's this idea of don't say Wayne Rooney. No.
You know what? I've heard some people saying that, and I'm like, geez.
No, trust me. I go to the University of Derby. I've watched Derby plenty. He's awful. He's not a good manager right now. He needs to be the assistant under someone first. No chance. So yeah, we need someone who's young, passionate. Doesn't even have to be young, just passionate, willing to take the club forward. I don't care if he's English. He could be Macedonian for all I care. As long as he's passionate about the club and willing to build a project, that's all we need. That's not Rafa. It could be Nuno. It's probably not even Antonio Conte. We just need someone who's willing to come in, play decent football, cares about the fans, and is willing to take a project that may take 3 to 4 years, similarly to Leicester.
Yeah, absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head again there. For me personally, I would really go for Eddie Howe. His defensive record just scares the life out of me. Some of the amount of goals they shift. But Graham Potter, yeah, I have to agree, mate. I feel like I'd sooner have Graham Potter than Rafa Benitez. And I feel like a lot of fans might even agree with that. I made the comparison to Brendan Rodgers, his sort of managerial journey, if you like, where he came from and where he is, and maybe that's what a Graham Potter sort of manager might need at Everton. So that's definitely a shout, and I think I'd sooner have him than Benitez. And I think that emphasises the fact that this isn't just about his Liverpool connections, Benitez, because let's not forget, Brendan Rodgers was a matter of games away from winning the league with Liverpool. But I think if Brendan Rodgers was available tomorrow, everyone would be wanting Brendan Rodgers. So I don't think this is so much of a Liverpool issue, to be honest. I feel like, it's quite easy for the media to sort of jump on that sort of bandwagon. It's all about Liverpool, but it's not. Rafa's not. He's not done anything in years. He's like, just look at his record in China, woeful. I feel like he's a yesterday man, and he's not the man that we need. And you've made great points. You said that, like, we need someone who is going to be passionate, wanting for the project. It takes into Bramley more and to get us, progress us where we want to be. And Rafa just doesn't seem to be that man at all. And I don't know, mate. I just feel like I'd sooner have someone who has something to prove, has something to, and I've said this on a few videos in the past. We've gone on about a lot of player recruitments, and people don't want to go after Hollywood player names like Adam Ramsey or I don't know Wilfried Zaha, Gareth Bale. People. I don't think that's what we need at all. These Hollywood names. We need players, young, hungry, who have something to prove. Perfect example, Ben Godfrey. No one really batted an eyelid on my first signing from Norwich for 20-25 mil. And like you rightly said, he was our best player. So I feel like the same approach can be taken with a manager. And if that's Graham Potter and he's going to play us better football and he has something to prove, and so be it, because he could. You just don't know. Look at what happened to Rodgers on his sort of managerial career journey. But so just to wrap things up, let's put you on the spot right now. Who's your choice? Who is your choice for manager? You have the pick. Who would you want in the hot seat?
So if I can pick anyone,
just of the sort of everyone's been mentioned, or like your choice. If you could go out and get a manager for Everton now, who would be your number one choice?
Galtier, because he's built a squad from Lille. I believe when he joined, Lille finished like 15th. They finished 15th. 3 or 4 years later, they've just won the league. In the end, I don't care if that's in France, Belgium. Do you know what I do? Because France is still a top 5 league. It is. That's PSG have just been in Champions League semi-finals, finals, and stuff like that. It's clearly a league that can produce players. What was it last? Lyon, PSG. They were like 3 teams in France that would progress really far in Europe. It's in Monaco a few years ago. It's this idea of the French league's a farmers' league. It's not. It's not a farmers' league. And in the end, Galtier is, in my opinion, he's like medium risk, really high reward. Rafa's low risk, low reward. Eddie Howe, very high risk, medium. You know what I mean? I feel like Galtier's perfect. I don't want someone who's low. I don't want someone who's even medium. It's like, you know what? Someone, Everton Turkey's just put here, Galtier, Potter, Nuno. You know what? In that order.
I'd agree with that.
I'd agree with that too.
Yeah.
In the end, I don't mind Nuno, but if there's options I'd prefer. Maybe I'd swap. I'd swap Nuno with Fonseca, and then that'd be my top 3. Galtier, Potter, Fonseca are my 3. That if we hire them, I would, I'd be over the moon. I'd be doing the Aguero celebration against QPR. The shirt would be swung around. I'd be buzzing. But I don't think that's what we're going to do. We're going to end up hiring Benitez, or somehow we're going to find a way to get David Moyes back, or something stupid like that.
Yeah, I mean, in the comments, there's a lot of Galtier. Erwin Koeman, hashtag Galtier to Goodison. Galtier would be perfect. What are your thoughts on, just quickly before we wrap things up, what are your thoughts on Big Dunk? A few people are asking this in the comments, and we need to address this. Big Dunk, what are your thoughts on that situation?
I don't think he's ready. I don't think you can't look at 2 games. Don't get me wrong, big clubs. You can't look at 2 games and go, that's our man. In the end, if we do it, you know what? I'm going to back him. It's kind of like a marriage thing. Till death do us part. I will back Dunk until he's pushed off the cliff at Goodison because he's not performing. We could get relegated and I will still back Dunk because of what he's done for the club. But in the end, he's not the best move for the club, and I wouldn't like it at all. Because I don't want Dunk to become a sacrificial lamb. I don't want Dunk to be, here he is. He ends up finishing 16th, and now Dunk has to take all the blame, and the fans, Because in the end, look at Ollie. There's the United fans who've been United fans for 30 years who don't like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer anymore because of his management. Chelsea, it's different and stuff like that. But in the end, with Big Dunk, it'd be disappointing. But I'd brutally honest, I'd prefer it over Rafa. I'd prefer it over Rafa 100%.
Yeah, I think I get that. Erwin Koeman would prefer Moyes over Rafa. I think I would.
100%, yeah.
I think I would, yeah. Dunk need experience. Lewis Crinson. Don't need experience. Should maybe not Madrid, but yeah, I do agree with the experience. Frank Marley says it's Everton who will end up with someone who will be sat within 18 months. Well, I think that's why they've got to be so careful, Frank. I think that's why they've got to be so cautious about who they bring in and really think about this, because if they are going down the Benitez route, then I think you could spot on, mate, and that could be where we end up. But yeah, I think that's where we'll leave it there, unless you've got any final points, Callum, you want to add on?
No,
so yeah, me personally, I would have liked Galtier. It's sort of looking unlikely now. I hope it isn't Benitez. I really hope it isn't Benitez. I would rather have a Graham Potter sort of manager than Benitez. I really would, because we spoke quite a lot in this video about, you know, the whole idea of a project and someone who is going to invest themselves in it, and not someone, because I feel like Benitez, it's probably going to be a last crack at the Premier League for him, a final paycheck. And I think, but at the time he took the China job, I think it was very much not in his mind that he'd be back in the Premier League again. So why should we have to settle for that? But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I had a great stream. Thanks for Callum for coming on. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully soon we have some answers, but you know what, we'll probably finish this stream and then there'll be a load of new names linked. You know, by the end of the night, there's probably been a load more managers in the frame. So another day and we are no closer to knowing. There's always rumblings, but let's hope that changes sometime soon. Thanks. Make sure to drop us a like, subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, thanks for watching the Toffee Blues, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, everyone.